key of E, well, actually F sharp at capo 2, but we're playing it as we would play in the key of E.
Right.
So I thought, okay, well, what does this look like? So then I wrote this out using this.
Mm-hmm.
And then I said, okay, now I want to get to here. Well, I can look at this and go, okay, well, if this is key of E, this is D, I think theoretically, with just, you know, blind stab, this should be one step down.
Exactly. Good.
But I wanted to put it in the template.
In the numbers.
Because I want to think about it in that progression 1 4 5 2 3 6 type of thing. So I did this. That was my first attempt. Mm-hmm. So I wrote the key of E here, and then I looked at the key of D, and then I wrote it up. So I said, okay, well, if I'm starting with 1, so obviously 1's going to be D, and then 3, F sharp minor. Now there's a couple times where it looks like they left the key.
Exactly, because here we've got F sharp minor, and then in the next line we have F sharp major, or in G sharp in the case of the key of E.
So that was why I wrote my little question marks, which you can't really see, but that's
So a couple of different approaches to transposing, and the one where if you're just going up or down a whole step, it's pretty easy to look at this. It should be pretty easy to just look at this and drop every chord or raise every chord.
Right.
A whole step or a half step or whatever. Anything further than that, and it gets a little tougher, the math gets a little tougher.
Okay.
But because if you're going let's say from E to C, which would be down 2 whole steps.
2 whole steps, right.
You know, all of a sudden when you drop the G sharp chord or something, you know, just doing the math of seeing what's two steps below G sharp is a little trickier than what's 1 step below. Mm-hmm. Not much, but still, and it'd be easy to get lost with sharps and flats sometimes. So it's always good to do one thing you did here is write out the keys so you know the scale. So you've got the key signature already, knowing that if in E it goes from 1 to 3, in C it's going to go from 1 to 3. One more quick example, because we just played through speaking of still the same. We're in the key of C, and we know that A minor would be in that key then, because it would be chord 6. And the song also uses E minor, or like in the beginning we have C to E minor to G. Okay? And E minor is what number in the key of C?
6.
No. In E minor. In C.
Oh, sorry, that's going to be chord 3.
Right. If we were in G, E minor would be 6. Okay? So it's going from 1 to 3 to 5. Well, later on, we do get an A minor chord in there. But what chord came before A minor? Can you think backwards and remember what happened in there?
It was E.
Yeah. Dramatic impact of that chord because it's bigger than anything else we've heard so far. It created a big mess, or again a lot of tension, and that tension is resolved by the A minor. If we were in the key of A, B, C, D, E, A minor, E is 5. E is the dominant chord for A. So there is this dominant 5 to 1 relationship.
Got it, yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Now later on, we heard... right there, we heard this E take us to A. Now that still sounds pretty good. A dominant chord is the same. Chord 5 is the same whether you're in a major key or a minor key. It's still going to be the 5th step of the scale. So whether we're in the key of A minor or A major, E would be considered the dominant to both of those. Okay? And so in the chorus then, he uses the E to get us to A, and the A is kind of like a surprise. But the A is in there, taking us to D minor, which is in the key of C, chord number 2. And if we were in the key of D, E, F sharp, G, A is 5. So this A chord is acting as a dominant chord to get us to there. So this whole cycle of chords that he uses in there is using chords that are outside the key, but they're secondary dominant chords. They're chords that pull you to a chord that is in the key. The E chord's pulling us to A minor. Later on, he throws us a second curve, kind of like, where that E pulls us to A, which is actually in there kind of like prolonging the mess, and it resolves to D minor, which then finally takes us to G, which is our real chord 5. This is our real dominant chord, and now we could just end the song right there, on that C if we want.
Right.
So, when you have a chord that's outside the key, there's a really good chance that it's the dominant chord of one of the other chords in the key.
Okay.
And that's exactly what's happening here with our G sharp chord.
Okay, right.
Okay.